أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Inshallah, today we will be starting with Surah Al-Mutaffifin, Surah number 83 in the Quran. Before we begin, as usual, just wanted to give you a small intro. The Quran, one of its fundamental teachings is a balance between ibadah and akhlaq. Okay? Worship and manners. And this is something serious that the ummah is suffering with today. We have been so focused on our prayers and our fasting and our zakat and our hajj, but we have given very little attention to our akhlaq outside the masjid, our manners, our morals, our concept of dealing with others, our attention to cleanliness and being respectful and being courteous to others. The way we deal with Muslims, non-Muslims, the way we deal with those who are less fortunate than us. And this is something that has become a tragedy, and even non-Muslims, when they think of Muslims, they think of people who don't have akhlaq, people who don't know how to deal with each other, they're rude towards each other, the way they drive, the way they leave their shoes and sandals outside the masjid, the way they don't respect queuing, the way the service industry is maintained. There's no respect. There's unfortunately racism and discrimination against, for example, if you're in the Arab world, and Indians and Pakistanis and other nationalities are looked down upon. All these jahiliyyah concepts are there, which Islam came to eliminate. So Islam and the Quran brings this to balance, and we saw this balance in Surah Al-Fatiha, where we balance between Iyaka na'bud, which is worship, and Iyaka nasta'een, which symbolizes our akhlaq. And already in the previous surahs that passed by, Surah Abasa, we learned about one small gesture that the Prophet ﷺ did to a blind man, and he was called out on it. Remember that, Abasa? Just a bulging of the forehead, and Allah said, no, this is not right. Even though he's blind, for you, Ya Rasulullah, your standards are too high. And you are the example for humanity, therefore, we need to make sure you're perfect. So anything below perfection, Rasulullah ﷺ is called on. Subhanallah. And so today's surah is going to highlight one of those issues where we're going to be talking about akhlaq that have to deal with business, financial akhlaq, basically. Because there's different types of akhlaq. There's akhlaq with you at the house, with your family, with your parents, with your children, with your wives. Then there's akhlaqs at the workplace, your akhlaq with your boss, your akhlaq with your colleagues. Then there's akhlaq at the mall, the way you deal with the salesman. Then there's akhlaq at the petrol station. There's akhlaq, with your friends. There's akhlaq with your neighbors. And there's akhlaq with the way you do business. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about. And this is critical for any society. Why? Because when the financial system is corrupt, then what happens to the rest of the system? Corruption. Okay? And if you think about it, all the problems we face on earth today are due to what? Due to financial corruption primarily. Why are wars happening all across the world? Why are countries fighting against each other? It's for the money primarily, right? It's not religion, it's money. Why do, and we have this concept of how politicians are corrupt, and we have this concept of how, when there's corruption, then the gap between the rich and the poor gets larger. Then you have people who are unemployed, people who don't have their breadwinner role set. Then, bichare, you guys can't get married, those of you who aren't married. You want to get married, but not enough, your salary doesn't pay enough. There's prostitution as a result of financial corruption, right? Why do women end up doing prostitution? Because of corruption financially, right? They don't have the means, and they have to sell their body to pay the bills. Why are there burglaries happening? Why do people cheat? Why do people do incorrect business transactions? Because of financial injustice. Okay? And remember, justice is part of the fitrah of insan. And so Allah's going to address one of the issues that was at the core of the matter, which is the concept of greed in insan. That's the overall theme of today's surah, the dangers of greed. Okay? And so this is a Makki surah, Surah Al-Mutaffifin. And yesterday we looked at how Al-Abrar were mentioned. Remember Abrar? Yes, they were mentioned yesterday and the day before, I believe. So, إِنَّ الْأَبْرَارَ لَفِي نَعِيمٍ. So I told you that the definition of the word bir is goodness. Okay? And I gave you the example of how desert is stability from bar, and then oceans are unstable. And so you want to be good, look at ayah number 177, I believe, in Surah Al-Baqarah. Allah defines what it means to be a good person. And this is like the bare minimum. You know how society has its own definition of bir and goodness. For some people, they define goodness as someone who is just kind, someone who's honest. For others, good means someone who prays 5 times a day in the masjid. For some people, good means Hafidh Quran. For others, good means someone who does a lot of charity and builds masjids. These are all our definitions. But you want to know what Allah's definition is? Look at Ayat al-Bir, ayah number 177, Surah Al-Baqarah. Inshallah, one day we can do a dars on it. But I just wanted you to guide you to it, because in that ayah, which is an incredible ayah, it's shocking the way Allah defines goodness. You know, we tend to sometimes prioritize certain things over others, but when you look at that ayah, you realize what Allah has made a priority. And you know how, like in Ayat al-Bir, there's a list of things that you need as qualities as a Muslim, okay? And whenever there are lists in the Quran, then what comes first and second and third and fourth and fifth, this order is also divine. And what that order signifies is priorities and importance. So number 1 is like the most important, that's the foundation. Then number 2, second priority, and third and fourth and fifth. And so you'll notice in that ayah how Allah balances between ibadah and akhlaq, and charity giving, and our belief and aqeedah, and so all these things. And the idea that, you know, that there's a difference between law and morality. Remember we spoke about this earlier also, that, you know, we are concerned with, unfortunately, just halal and haram. But we don't think about what's right and what's wrong anymore. You know? Is it halal or haram to smile? You know? And since it's not haram, then we don't smile. You know? But it's good to smile. But we don't look at things that way. We just look at things black and white. As long as it's not haram, I can do it. But wait a second. Is it right to do it? Because sometimes the law allows you to do certain things that are maybe halal, but wrong morally. Okay? And so we'll look at that in this surah. And so this surah is split into 4 parts. How many parts? 4 parts. Part number 1, a big warning to the greedy. Okay, the Mutaffifeen, and we'll define who Mutaffifeen are, but it starts with the warning, very severe. It's one of the most severe warnings in the entire Quran. Okay, then part number 2, Allah will talk to the Fujjar, those who explode in sin. Part 3 will be the Abrar, again. So Fujjar and Abrar, the good people. So the contrast between good people and then contrast between bad people, and then part 3 is good people, and then finally in part number 4, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will describe to us on the day of judgment who's the winner, who's the loser. Okay, obviously the Abrar will be the winners, but He'll describe to us what the end will be. So, A'udhu billahi minash shaitan rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Waylun lil Mutaffifin. The surah starts with a severe warning. Wayl in the Arabic language and Quran is defined as the most or worst possible destruction that can fall on a human being. This is like the peak of destruction. And some Mufassirun also call Wayl a part of Jahannam that Jahannam itself is scared of. So Wayl is like a section of Jahannam, and that section is so like scary and terrifying that Jahannam itself is scared of that place. And so Allah is saying that place is for who? For Mutaffifeen. Who are Mutaffifeen? Specifically in trade, people who, when it comes to giving your customer something, you give them less than what they deserve. Okay? That's what Allah is defining in the beginning. And on the contrary, when it comes to taking, they try to get more than what they deserve. Okay, so back in the days, the example used to be given to people who, let's say for example, a salesman who sells tomatoes. Okay, and there's obviously a weighing machine, and you have to be very precise when it comes to selling tomatoes. And so for a mutaffif, if he would be selling a kilo of tomatoes, he would give maybe 0.01 less than, maybe 1 tomato less, just to save like a couple of cents here and there, a couple of filths, maybe 100 filths here, just so that he can, cheat the customer very subtly, so that he doesn't even notice. And so this is a mutaffif. Allah's calling out the act of cheating in small dealings. Someone who sells, but he cheats very slickly. Okay? And on the contrary, when it comes to buying, he's extra cautious, and he makes sure that he gets what he has paid for. And if he doesn't get what he has paid for, he fights and he argues, and he makes sure that he gets what he wants, and maybe sometimes even extra, like some bonus things, And subhanAllah, this is something that's so common nowadays in our lifestyles, right? People who, cut corners. And this doesn't just apply to businessmen, people who sell things. It also applies to services. So for a lot of us, we're employees. And our dealings with our employer are based on what? Number of hours during the day, right? We get paid. The norm in Bahrain is 8 hours working, right? During the day. And so a mutaffif is someone who doesn't work 8 hours. Someone who works less than 8 hours, but he gets paid for what? 8 hours. Now when I was studying this, this gave me goosebumps. Because if you look at reality, how many employees today in the Muslim world are actually working 8 hours for their employer fully? No Facebook breaks, no Twitter breaks, no Instagram breaks, no smoking breaks. It's a scary ayah. And Allah's saying, not just a small punishment, waylun for these guys. The worst possible destruction in hellfire for such people who cut corners, who, sometimes also in the contracting business, in contracting business, you get paid based on project basis. And so the contractor would tell the client, listen, it's going to take me 6 months to finish this project. And so even if the contractor could finish in 6 months, what does he do? He delays even more. He says, oh, this material, it's missing. I'm not getting visas. I need to extend. And he starts ripping off the client by extending and extending and extending. This also happens with lawyers. Lawyers get paid by the hour, or they should get paid by the hour, right, for a specific case. And so maybe a case would take 3 days to finish. He'd be like, no, I need a month for this, man. It's a complicated case. And so why does he extend the period? So he can make more money, so he can rip you off. And so Allah's talking about these people here. Waylun lil-Mutaffifeen. The people who, due to greed, which is a disease of the heart, they end up making small, cheating gimmicks here and there, to cheat the customer. And this also happens in the banking industry, unfortunately, where there's always these hidden charges. Have you ever looked at your statement and wondered, hey, wait a second, where's this charge coming from? And you call the banker, and he says, sorry, sir, this is in the contract. Remember that contract that was size 4 font, which you could hardly read? It says there that we can charge you convenience fees or hidden fees. And you get ripped off. And it's a small amount. Maybe it's like 200 fils, 300 fils. But accumulate that over a period of 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. It's a lot of money, right? And so this is, for the person who's doing tatfif, it's not a big deal, right? But for Allah, what is He saying? It's a big deal. It's a serious, serious matter. Now, why is it a serious matter? Very interesting. Because you know how, unfortunately, in our Muslim world, we keep complaining about how governments are corrupt, how the politicians are corrupt, and this is the discussions we have over samosa and chai and chapati and pakore, right? How corrupt the government is. They're not providing electricity. They're not providing water, Allah's saying, listen, corruption starts with these small things. Most of the people who discuss these issues in the majlis, they're probably doing tatfif in their workplace. They're probably doing tatfif in their businesses. they're cutting corners. They're trying to save 100 fils here, 100 fils there. You know? And Allah is saying, you want the state of the people to change? Fix yourself. Look at these small things and fix them, and then the matter will change. And this is a standard teaching of the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not change the state of a people until they change themselves. So change starts with yourself. And that's what this surah is about. And you know, even in the medical industry now, doctors usually, you go see a doctor, he says, you know what, you need this medicine, that medicine, this medicine. Do you really need all those medicines? Maybe not, but who's paying for the bills? The insurance company. And so they rip the insurance companies off. And you know, I came to know a while ago that doctors have targets in terms of sales of medicines. And recently, I don't want to name the hospital, but recently a doctor got sacked because he didn't meet his sales targets for medical sales. So doctors are salesmen, literally. And you know, they know that insurance companies are paying, and therefore they sell you medicine, and whoever's paying you the bigger under the table money, their medicine will be sold. You know? So there's a lot of corruption happening. You know, I have so many people coming to me and saying, you know what, my dad's involved in haram business, and you know, I keep telling him it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong, but he says, no, 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 no. This is the way the system works. We have no other option. If we don't work this way, we'll be out of business. Allah's talking about these people here. وَيْلٌ لِلْمُطَفِّفِينَ. Those who take these things lightly. Those who take that 10 dinar bribe lightly, you know, that 5 dinar to get your transaction done in the government. Serious stuff, guys. You know, this is Quran, you know, and we can't censor this surah out. We can't make Quran sound like all nice and, you know, about Jannah and stuff. This is Quran. It's saying وَيْلٌ لِلْمُطَفِّفِينَ. The worst possible destruction to people who take these small financial injustices lightly. Okay? So, the Prophet ﷺ in the hadith said that they did not cheat a little in business except crops stopped growing and there were droughts everywhere. This is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. That due to the corruption of people in small things, that's what caused the droughts. That's what's caused the crops from growing. What is happening in the world today? There's so much poverty, there's floods, there's tsunamis, there's people dying of, you know, all these earthquakes. Allah is saying all this fasad, this corruption is because of who? It's because of these small things. Allah here is addressing the root cause. The root cause of the issue is these small things that we overlook. And you know, going back to Adam alayhi salam's story, let's go back in time when we were created, when our father was created, Adam alayhi salam. What did the angels say? Angels said, Ya Allah, you're creating someone who's going to cause bloodshed and corruption on earth? Bloodshed and corruption. What's the opposite of bloodshed? Peace, right? What's the opposite of corruption? Justice. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responded to them and said, Inni a'lamu ma la ta'lamun. I know what you don't know. You know what between the lines Allah is telling them? Is that I have created Adam for a higher purpose. He's going to fix this earth from bloodshed and corruption. He's actually going to be an ambassador of peace and justice. That is the purpose of our creation, to establish peace and justice on earth. But what has happened to the earth today? Is there any peace? Is there justice? So, subhanAllah, our objective of creation is to make what the angel said untrue. So far, what the angel said is true. There's bloodshed and corruption. Allah said, no, I know what you don't know. I know that there will be people from my ummah who will have this message, who will have this vision to spread peace and justice. And they will fight for it and they will, die trying. That's ihdina sirat al-mustaqim. That's the path we ask Allah to get us on every single day. And when we walk into majlises or say, what do we say to each other? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalam. We are ambassadors of peace. Not like what ISIS is doing or Daesh, where they're spreading hatred and extremist thoughts. It's completely offline. Completely not Sirat al-Mustaqim. This is like ABCs of our deen, ABCs of our Quran. So, who are they? Al-Mutaffifeen, Allah explains.